I'm Felicia McCall, and I'm here to say something. Life After Divorce Edition.
So, Felicia, thank you so much for coming to sit down with me and say something
For sure.
about life after divorce.
Thank you for having me.
It's absolutely. It's been a journey.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I meet so many women, but the time that I met you during that season, it was hard, right? And I
Very
still
hard.
had like this wall up. And then to find out that you also was going through the same thing. But let's talk about today before we go back down memory lane to how we got to where we are today. Your daughter is how old now?
She's 15. She just turned 15 when it was a week ago.
Wow.
Yep. So everything started crumbling when she was about 4. So we spent the last, 8, 9 years, just the two of us.
Yes, because now you're married,
Now
happily
we
married.
Yep, now we're married, less than a year.
Life after divorce.
Oh my God.
It has gotten much better.
Oh my God, it's so much more to life after divorce than pain. And I think we just get stuck on the pain or the rejection, the abandonment. We just get stuck there and we're not thinking, could there possibly be more?
Oh my God.
Can I be happier?
Not in that season.
No.
You're not thinking, look, this is the end of the road.
You
I
got
have
hate, you
failed.
mad.
Life is bad. I have let myself and God down. We all down, right?
Exactly,
Not to mention you got a
exactly.
little one. So
Oh my
life
God.
after divorce with a child. As a single mother, I met you in some apartments that we both lived in
Yep,
that
yep.
actually catered to single mothers, single parents rather.
Exactly.
Beautiful establishment, beautiful grounds, safe environment. And I met you there, and you were going through a divorce. It was 2016.
Was it 16?
2016.
Yeah.
I was going through a divorce, and so were you. I'm on the 3rd floor. You was on the 2nd floor.
It was, like a halfway house for single moms.
It was.
Almost every parent there was single.
Yes.
And they were moms, and everybody was going through like Carol Lee.
Yes.
You know, my friend Kim, that was from home. I didn't even know she was from home until the girls started playing, and then come to find out she knew my brother. So, and everybody was going through this big transition, and our kids became friends, and it just became a place like God had created this place for us to harbor and just be each other's strength for about 2 years.
Oh my God. And ironically, that's what you got from that place, because before I got married, I lived there as a single mom.
Really?
Yes, I was there my daughter was 3, we moved out when she was 11. So I was there for about 7 years.
I had no idea.
And I got married, and after I got divorced, I needed to fend for myself, and I knew that they offered a discount for single mothers. And it wasn't related to the government welfare. This was just the owner, his way of giving back. And I was able to get in. And then I met you. So to find out and even when I was there before, I had met other women. I had a circle of women who were single mothers. So to come back and see that you got into that same circle, just different women, was so funny. But let's talk about what you were going through. Let's talk about the season that you were in when I met you.
You know, that was a really weird season because right up the hill were townhouses and houses in that community. And I lived in this 3-story beautiful townhouse.
Oh, you lived over there?
Yeah, that's where I was. And the house, my husband left. He just left. He didn't say where. One day I heard his friends down there and they were packing the house up. And I was doing Foswell's hair and I knew what was happening. He was packing up. And I was like, okay, I might as well give him the lamp. Like, y'all take that too, you know. But inside, I knew this was going to be not just a change that had been happening over the past couple of years. This was it. This was him leaving. And I have a 4-year-old that's going to be asking me, where is daddy? She's looking out the window, and that used to kill me. To this day, if I sit and think about Foswell sitting in the window, listening for every car, I could break down in seconds. So that's still a place I got to go to a therapist for.
That's good.
But yeah, so because she would always be looking for him, and knowing that he was going all the way back to another continent with no conversations or rare conversations, I was melting inside, but I was doing her hair and he was packing up.
So did he tell you I'm leaving?
No. He never told me he was leaving. I think two ways I knew that he was leaving was that my daughter was in pre-K and she told her teacher that my daddy left us. And I was like, well, damn, he left us? It was Foswell. She was like 3, she was 4, and she was the one who told her teacher that my daddy left us. I didn't think he had left. I think thought he was just going on a trip.
Really?
That's how much of a denial I was in,
Oh
how much
my
hope I
gosh.
still had for the relationship and for the marriage. But she knew. She was 3.
Wow.
Yeah.
A whole other continent. Yeah, because he was out of the country.
He was out of the country, but he
And
would
you
travel a
thought
lot.
that he was.
He would travel a lot with his job, and he was going back and forth from his country a lot more. But she was like, my daddy left us.
Wow.
And when the teacher told me, that's when it hit me.
clicked.
He was gone. But then he hadn't packed up quite yet. But when he packed up, I was like, well, damn, that's it.
You definitely gone.
And when he left, all the house was in his name. All the bills were in his name. Because he asked me to do that. He said, hey, stay at home, take care of Francois, and let me take care of everything. I just don't want her really in daycare. I had a full career. I was in IT, I was traveling, I was a consultant in telecommunications, and he was like, just hang out with her. But as time went on, I could tell he started making certain comments. He started treating me differently because I wasn't bringing in that income. He thought I should have been much further along in business. He just
After
thought
he
I
told
should-
you to stay home.
After he told me to stay home, and I started getting jittery and afraid that, oh God, I don't have anything coming in. How am I going to take care of Francois? How am I going to do this? So that was where it really started to shift when he packed up that day. And I think from there, once he packed up, now the house is in his name. So this is funny. They foreclosed on the house. I was doing everything to keep that house.
While you were in it?
Well, I was in it. And I just remember can you imagine your neighbors, you're this couple, you know, all the beautiful couples in the neighborhood with the beautiful children, and your house is the only one with a foreclosed sign in the front.
Embarrassing.
Foreclosed for sale, and we in it.
And you in it.
And all our families had mingled with the parties, and guess what? People had to come in and look at the house while I was in there.
While you were in there.
But I was trying to save the house, but I couldn't get a job. So I kept trying to save the house, and I remember this one day he was going to sign the papers. He was going to help me out, and somebody talked to him. Somebody had a conversation because the next couple of hours he stopped answering the phone and wouldn't sign the papers.
So what was his response when it came to your child, Francois? Like,
I mean, the
he
whole
didn't care that.
I think the goal was probably to get me to give him Francois.
Oh.
But I heard a voice one day, it was like, hide the passports. I never forgot it. It's like, hide the passports. I took those passports, I put them in a yellow envelope, and I flew to one of my friend's house. I went over to her house, and I told the helper, I said, look, give this to her.
Wow.
And when she got it, she said, oh, hell.
Did you find it?
She knew. But at least she got wind of something. And the
Something.
next day, he was looking for
He
those
was looking for.
passports.
Oh my God! So that was, girl. What would you have done if he took your baby?
Girl, let me tell you, I would have been crazy. I would have been crazy. I would have been going through that country like a mad woman.
Listen.
And then it was good that I had a friend that was a lawyer, and she would give me advice on, hey, Felicia, what kind of rights he had, what kind of rights I had, and the moves to make. And I was always a couple of steps ahead. Always a couple of steps ahead. And when you want to save a relationship so much, you have a tendency to drag your feet.
Yeah.
And when you drag your feet, the money out the bank account, you done slept and he done won.
he done
You better
left.
wake up. You can get together later. Later,
Yeah.
y'all can make up. So,
Yeah.
you know, I think it's very important for women to understand, don't be stupid.
But it's so hard to say that when you're in it, right?
It is very hard to say that. And you
It's hard to
need
even
support system.
see it.
No,
when you're
you
in it.
can't see it. I remember my same friend, I call her name Ruth. She said to me, I remember she was just helping me out, and she was African too. And she said, listen, what school was I going to? I told her, she was like, go get that deposit. I was like, he's going to be mad. She was like, go get that money from that deposit from
So
take
you can
Fazwa
live
out of
off
school.
of it?
And take Fazwa out of that expensive school, get the deposit, and I'll help you with Fazwa. And I think just staying ahead like that, listening, paying attention, people around you have more sense than you because they're not emotionally entangled.
They're on the outside looking in and they can see it.
Exactly, and they can see it. And she was telling me moves to make that I would have was so afraid to make, thinking that this would be the last straw if I made this move. Oh, it's been the last straw.
It was
boo.
already the last
It was
straw.
already- But just being confident, just the people around you being as loving, the loving people around you, allowing that support system to be your support system. And I think they took so much effort to help us. I remember he wouldn't pay the HOA. And at that time, they would turn the water off. You didn't pay the HOA.
Oh, wow.
So Fazio and I got our bags together. They turned the water off, and we went knocking on her door. The water off. Can we take a bath?
The neighbor door?
No, my friend that lived at Centennial at the time. She was at Centennial.
So how long did you stay in the house before you came over to Centennial?
2 years.
Oh, so you stayed there 2 years battling.
They were trying to sell it the whole time. So they were actually I had to let people in and out of the house the whole time that we were there.
So by the time you got to Centennial, how long did it take for you to actually get a divorce?
You know what? That was the longest period that existed on the planet, because I felt like I was in purgatory. I wasn't out and I wasn't in. And we were inside. He was out of the country, didn't care. I had my friend that was an attorney recommended an attorney for me that handled international child support, you know, child custody issues that were more global. So that was very expensive. And by this time I had a job, and I had a good job.
Yeah. And it's the only way you can get in Walton, so.
Yeah, it was a good
it was
job.
discounted.
I'm just learning to have discounts.
Yeah.
For single moms. I didn't know
you
that.
didn't get it on a discount. Oh, I'm sorry.
By that time
I took advantage of the discount. Yeah.
By that time I was working and making really good money, and I had to hire this attorney, and he was gone, and she was sending emails, $300 emails, and you know, she was doing her work, but he was chilling with his new boo. And I was over here trying to figure out if I was gonna go to school, you know, what's she gonna eat, how she's gonna, you know, listening to her cries at night, you know, hoping he called her, all along with trying to build a career and create a safe place. Yeah, a safe place for her to grow and mature.
I know when I met you, when I moved in, I was recently divorced. I left in January. I moved in over there in June. And I was in a place where I felt like a failure. Not just from the divorce, but the fact that before I got married, my daughter was 11. And she said, I had known him for 8 months. She said, Ma, I don't think y'all ready to get married. Now me, girl, you don't know what you're talking about. You a child. But out of the mouth of babes, right?
Yep.
I learned that later on. And so I felt like a failure because by the time I was back at Walton, where I had started when I first moved to Atlanta. And I sat there and I'm looking at my daughter now who's in high school, and I'm moving her from where she went to middle school and high school back over here to Walton, predominantly white. She's in high school, she hates it. The kids are doing drugs in the bathroom, she's miserable. I now have to drive her, because it's her last year. I want her to be happy and not go through what I'm going through. So I drive her now an hour away every morning for school, 6 o'clock in the morning. And so every day I'm asking myself why I chose to make that mistake. What lesson am I learning? And so it wasn't over when I left. In fact, the divorce didn't start when I left. It started probably a year or two before, but when I finally left. But when I left, I was still going through that journey. 6 months later with you, I had built up this strength inside of me that nobody could do anything else to me. Nobody could say anything else to me. It was all about Karina.
Yeah.
And it was all about me, how I was going to take care of her. Friendship-wise, I was too embarrassed to make new friends. I was still so embarrassed. Because ending a marriage is like, that's not something that you get into it for, right?
Yep. It's so much shame. When I say it's so much shame, do you know I never told my parents I was going through any of that.
Oh, God.
I don't think I ever told my dad, and I think I saved myself two things. One, in case my husband came back.
Oh,
it just, that hope was still there. In case he decided, there were certain things I wasn't willing to do, but in case he came to himself, at least my family wouldn't hate him. When you tell your family, they dog him out
they
forever.
Dog him out quickly.
He will never redeem. We will never be redeemed in the family. Everybody will talk about him forever.
I did not ever want to be back with him, but I didn't want my family to see me start over from the bottom, because I left with nothing. Like we had an argument. We had been arguing, but we had an argument. He was very controlling. I remember the first 6 months of being married, I left. I moved out with my friend, and she encouraged me to go back. And so I always say that people in our generation, women, we are not taught to have a husband. We're not taught marriage. We are taught independence from day one. You can do it. You don't need a man to do it. You can do it. And so we weren't taught marriage. And so all I knew was my daughter. But when I got with him, he made me feel like I wasn't married. So my daughter wanted to sleep with me because she still did up until 11 years old. It was just me and her. So I had to learn to separate and not go sleep with her till she fall asleep, but stay in the bed with him. Well, there was a lot of competition to the point where when I would come home from work, my daughter would run and jump in my arms. This makes me tear up every time I tell the story. She run and jump in my arms. And so even by the time she was 11, when I got off work, she ran and jumped in my arms. And by the time we had moved into this huge house, I remember him telling me the night before that you came home and you kissed Karina and you didn't kiss me. So I'm like, okay, so now I'm not being a good wife.
Yeah.
The next day, my daughter ran to jump in my arms. And I remember shifting away from her so that I can go and greet him first in the kitchen.
Just to keep that conflict down.
Just to keep the conflict down.
Yep.
And immediately it did. My daughter recognized it, and
oh, wow.
She was in middle school, and we lost our connection.
Yeah.
So for the remainder of the 7 years being married to him, I dealt with him competing with me being a single mom, which is all that I knew since the time she was 3. And I sat down with her one day, her last year of middle school, and I said, what happened with us? You got married. And I was like, wow. So you don't want to hang out with me? And she was like, she shut down, she got quiet. And that's when I knew, plus he and I were just always arguing. She didn't wipe the counter right. She left the light on. She left her fan on. It was always something with her.
Yeah.
And I knew then, I was like, it's over. And then in my mind, I started saying, I got to get out of this. So the day that I left, which was probably 2 years later, we had an argument, and he had took the laptop and the hard drive. I started the show back then, and he took everything from me so that I couldn't leave. Or if I left, I would leave without everything that I had created, which was my livelihood. So I remember that day we was arguing, and I just said I had to go. He took the laptop and all of my stuff. Just give me my footage. I said, give me my footage. Let me have my stuff, and I can leave. He said no. So I began to tear up the house. I threw stuff at the TV, big screen, trying to get back to him. And he called the police. No, I called the police. The police got there, and he told the police that I threw stuff at him and that I hit him. He was yellow, so he was showing this little mark on his hand. I think I threw a spatula. And I was telling them, I just want my stuff out of his trunk, like he's locked my stuff up. Do you know 3 more police cars pulled up in Gwinnett County, and they arrested me because he told them that I had hit him with a spatula. They put me in the car, and the third car that pulled up, he said, I got the husband in the house writing up a statement.
Oh, wow.
I'm sitting there, first of all, with a golf club in my hand. I'm looking like the aggressor. But the fact that I heard that my husband was in the house writing a statement on me because you know what you did to me. And I went to jail. And my daughter was in Ohio, and she was to come back the next day. And it was New Year's. And I said, Lord, I'm about to go to jail. Karina's going to be arriving on the plane. How I'm going to get out? It's the holiday. I'm in the jail, so I'm calling. So my best friend was able to get a hold of her. And if I got out by 11 p.m., I didn't have to stay over the holiday. And child, she got me out. And I got my daughter off the plane the next day. No, my daughter came home that night. That next morning, I was at the house with a U-Haul. I took everything I could. By the time my daughter landed, I had went to my friend's house, redid her entire upstairs, unpacked my daughter's clothes, bought groceries. I had to make sure that it was a home when she got off that plane. Exactly. And she didn't miss a beat. And I drove her to school. But I say that I went through that for 7 years. To go back to say, I wasn't taught to be a wife. I was taught to do it on my own. So when I began to be a wife, I let him teach me. Yeah. And it was out of jealousy.
Yeah, and it was not the love of God for a wife.
No.
It was about dominating. It was his own insecurities that
very much
said, this is what a wife does. Everything inside of you said, no, it ain't.
Everything. Everything was like, this ain't it. And so I got out, and I'm back at Watson, and I meet you, and I'm going through divorce, and then I think I had a few television shows coming out, and I said, Felicia, he gonna take my money. And the people say, the attorney say they needed him to sign up on my lawsuit. I said, Felicia, and then you get me the attorney, and she said, rightfully so, Cherie. Just because you're separated don't mean you're divorced, and the pot is the pot. She said, if you can get him to sign these divorce papers, you'll be good. I said, I'm gonna go.
I remember that.
I got him to sign. He charged me $1,000.
You had to pay him to sign it. And you know, you talk about make us, and tears came out, I was thinking about establishing security for your child. Yes. It's huge.
Man.
I think that's the part that I still feel like I'm just really not there. It's so important for my child to have security, peace. So I did so much to make sure that this transition made sense to her. So what I ended up doing, everything in the house, I had a party. So what I did was I had a party. I said, listen, I sent out evites to everybody. I said, this is a divorce party. Everything you want, I'm gonna give you a sticker. Anything you want in this house, put your sticker on it.
Wow.
And when I get ready, and I say, when you come, I'm gonna have lunch ready. Food is gonna be ready, and we're gonna celebrate.
Oh, you had a party.
I had a party. I had a party each time somebody came by the house. You will not mourn me. You will not be depressed. We're gonna, Fazwa is here, and she's gonna have a good time. Wow. She will be on the patio eating watermelon. Friends would be by talking, and everybody would put their sticker like a museum, and they would put their sticker on whatever. Everything in the house, everything. I took out all the dishes, the linens, everything that had a memory attached. I was like, whatever I put out, you take.
Take it.
Sofa, beds, every piece of furniture, art. And it was a pretty nice house. And everybody took what they wanted. They just had to pick it up. That's how I moved without moving. So and then I had my goddaughter there, so to kind of keep Fazwa like her mind occupied. And every day we would ride down to Walton off the hill down to the apartments, and we would take something to the apartment.
That's how
y'all. Her little pink car that the neighbor had put together when she was like 2, 3.
Oh, that was a quick trip.
Yeah, we drove it down. So it was just so many memories I had. My job was to create new memories for her.
Yes.
Like this transition was hard, but guess what? We're moving on, and I keep enforcing, you choose happiness. Yeah. You make happiness your choice. And as painful as it is, I cried at night. Oh my God, I cried at night. I watched Hallmark movies and I cried. Put her to bed in time so I could cry, but I needed her to know that you have a right to peace, you have a right to safety, and I'm gonna do everything I can to make it peaceful and safe as I can. I just felt so guilty for her being introduced to that situation.
Yeah.
I feel guilty that he was her dad.
Yeah.
For a long time, I did not believe he was her dad. I had blocked that side of my brain completely out.
No, I think so, because
You
when I
remember that?
met you were not.
I knew it.
You
I
were
knew it.
not letting Fazwa see her father. I remember we had walked to Kroger's to talk about he's coming in town. Should I let him see her?
Yeah.
I'm like, that is her father.
No, that was closed
You
out.
had literally, shot him down. And I remember when you decided to because he had another baby.
Yeah, he had another baby. Yeah, so in my mind, one of the I realized survival techniques I used was I completely blocked the fact that he was her father, because in my mind, no dad would actually abandon their child. I thought about, I was like, this is not a turtle.
Yeah.
Where you spit them out on the beach and then they fend for themselves. You know what I mean? This is actually a child that is anxious to see you, wants to be with you. If you don't want to be with me, call your child, be with your child. And it wasn't that I didn't want him to see her. The problem was the inconsistency and the disruption.
Yes.
It was, and I know a lot of moms deal with, you come in, you leave. Now I got all this to deal with when you leave. So I was thinking about myself. I wasn't just thinking about, everybody kept saying, that's her daddy. That's her daddy. It's not about you. Yes, it's about me.
No, you make a good point.
It's about me too. It's
point.
3 of us in here, because as women, we have a tendency to eliminate ourselves from the picture of the care of the child. I gotta wipe tears, wipe butt, put Band-Aids on. It's me too, boo.
That's so true.
So I would say to any woman, don't eliminate yourself from self-care through that divorce process.
Ooh,
if someone wants to come in and disrupt your flow, your rhythm, push back.
That's good.
I mean, be legal, but push back and say, no, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah, you don't get to be inconsistent. Yeah.
If you're gonna be gone all the time.
Yep.
If you're gonna call on Tuesdays, call every Tuesday. If you're gonna call at night, call every night. Or whatever nights you call, just do it consistently. And that was what I was trying to establish, some consistency. And his desire was to hurt me so bad. He didn't care about how Fazwa, he wasn't seeing how she felt or her conversations. So I had to step up in front and say, stop it. This is where it stops. And I think to this day, he called me today. He's coming in town. We have a great relationship, you know, as far as, raising Fazwa.
It takes time to get there.
It takes time because I thought forever he was not going to be her dad. I think over about 5 years, I started to realize this is her dad. This is her dad.
But you're going to act like a dad in this area.
Yeah, in this area, you know, someone told me, well, he just doesn't have the daddy card. And I was like, you know what? He's doing the best he can. That's all the love he knows. That's all the love he can give. And I never would tell Fazwa, your daddy loves you, but I would say, no, baby, that's the best love he got.
That's all he can give.
God's love is true love. And that's why I wanted her to really understand the difference between what he was offering and what God really felt about her early on.
Felicia, I entertained at least you.
I had no desire. My mind was so much on, I just was still very sealed. I wasn't calloused
At all.
I had no interest. I had no desire. It was nothing. All I cared about was planning, setting goals, and meeting them. I cared about my career. I cared about my daughter. So I think that was where my focus was. And I did not, my daughter was so suspicious of everything. First of all, if somebody got in the car and I took them across the street, she gets in the car. Somebody been in the car. She's like, I smell something. Who was that? You know, so she always was aware of her surroundings. She was always aware of if someone had came in the house, she just knew. So she was always so aware of everything around her. I didn't want just a guy being around her. I just didn't want, so if I went out with someone, I went out, it's probably one time, I didn't go no more. But when I went, it wasn't something that I really let her know. So it was not my thing. And you tried to take me out. We went to a hookah lounge. She's like, you need to get, you knocked on the door.
I took you to a birthday party. Like,
was it a birthday party?
It was a hookah lounge.
I was like, my makeup ain't right. It's ashy. And remember, you took me to this other thing. It was another event. And you were all red carpeted. You were smiling and laughing. I was like, oh my God.
You so over it.
I just sat in the corner the whole night. Ain't nobody coming over in this corner to say nothing to you.
And ain't nobody coming to knock on that door. You ain't gonna find nobody sitting in that house.
Used to tell me, ain't nobody gonna come over to your house and ask, is Felicia McCall in here? You gotta get out.
Exactly. We put ourselves away and tuck in and we find something to focus on, be it career, be it children. But it's really a way, still of us neglecting ourselves of companionship, friendship, or having somebody that can come in. I used to say, the best way to get over somebody is to get under somebody else. That literally was my motto. And it worked, though. It did.
I'm sure it definitely worked.
But I was in that season, I was going through separation anxiety because Karina was now leaving for college. And so coming out of the divorce, I was happy to be coming out of the divorce because I had kept everything a secret. Nobody knew. When I got a divorce, people were so shocked. They were like, oh my God, if it didn't work between y'all, I know I'm never getting married and relationship goals. And I was like, listen, I made that marriage look so pretty for 7 years when it was full of jealousy and arguing. I was getting stomach ulcers and all kind of stuff. Stepping out like, oh, he look at him doing this and that for her. And I'm thinking, child, when I get home, I got to hear about it. Don't let a man look at me. He was stalking my phone calls, reading my text messages. He even put a tracker on my phone at one point. I didn't even know about it. It was terrible. So I was happy to be out of that. I had wasted 7 years of my life. I was happy to be out of it. But then it was Karina. Then my brother died right when Karina was leaving for college. And so I really went into a shutdown moment for about 2 years where I just didn't do anything. I didn't feel like anybody needed me. My brother was my #1 fan in the world. And then Karina was the only woman who really needed me. Yeah. So, but she didn't need me anymore. I mean, she did, but she's off in college, so I don't have to cook and clean. It's like, what am I supposed
you have
to do?
Nothing to do. Yeah.
I shut down. But then when life began to happen, when I began to open up and see that there was more, when I was coming out of that shell, I began to, I just put on this cape, right? Mm-hmm. And it was nothing about what anybody thought of me. It wasn't about my letdowns, my failures. It wasn't even about any of that. It was a matter of, like, I know who I am. Yeah. I know what I've been through. You could talk about me, but let me tell the story because I was there. I was in the food stamp line, okay? Exactly. I was on my knees crying. I was homeless. Like, let me tell my story, baby. You ain't doing it no service, okay? You gossiping. Let me tell you what really happened, honey. in them dark times. But I remember God, you know, at the end of the day, it was God that got me through. It was my faith and trusting in God. And today, the man that I've been in love with all of my life is
Patrick. Because I remember one day you came out, I was trying to figure out YouTube and all this stuff, and you were coming over to help me film or whatever. And we were talking about would you get married again? You were like, well, I would have loved to marry Patrick. So like,
nobody in Atlanta knew who Patrick was. It was like, we keep hearing about this Patrick.
So when I talked, like, a couple
and I was
years
like,
ago,
he's married, and you was like, Cherie, do you want to marry somebody that's married? You always the logical one. I mean, like, that doesn't make, I mean, what is he doing to his wife? He's going to do it to you. You always trying to talk me out of this situation because it was just a bad thing. I mean, but I'm like, you don't understand, Felicia. He was my husband before he was her husband. Because he was my husband in high school. He's been my husband. I was trying to explain that to you, but you didn't understand.
No, I did not.
Yeah. And I was like, I talked to him today. He called me, and you was like, where was that wife at? Like, I said that. You were so mean. Then one time I told you, I called him, and she happened to be sitting there, and I was like, Felicia, I done got him in trouble, girl.
Yeah.
But I tell you, it was perfect timing. Had it worked back then, it probably wouldn't have worked. But after going through and then like literally just praying, like I just felt like if I had Patrick, things wouldn't be this way, right? And literally during the pandemic, he came, and it has been a bliss. It's everything that I asked God for. I was asking now. I knew that I was in love with Patrick. I was asking God, help me to get over Patrick, God, because I want my husband.
Exactly.
So I want to love my husband.
You can't come in there with Patrick on the
side. Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to have Patrick on the side this time. I don't want to do that. I don't want to sneak. I want my husband. I started sleeping on the other side of the bed. I moved stuff out of my closet. I made room for him. I began to pray for him.
Yeah.
I was praying for him just for his day to go well. I was trying to rip up pictures of Patrick because I wanted my husband to have all of me, and they just wouldn't rip. And I remember walking down the street, and I'm praying. I used to go on the walks, and God was saying, focus on you, and I'm going to deal
that's so good
with the rest. And I said, but God, he said, I'm going to deal with Patrick. Loud as day. And I remember looking up at the sky saying, but God, he married. Like, I don't want no married man. Like,
exactly.
And he was like, focus on you. And I began to focus on me and not on Patrick. And so when he arrived here after going through his own divorce, he loves me more. I asked for God to send me a husband who loves me more than they love themselves. The man loves me unconditionally, hard. God showed me how to appreciate that because I could have been bitter.
Exactly. And I think it's so important, like you talked about, starting with yourself. I think we look at not the journey, but the destination. And I always told God, I don't like journeys, no way. I like where I'm going. I like to be where I'm going. But God has constantly talked to me about the just the whole journey, not just the destination. And, you know, before I met Reggie, I was on this 7-year journey I thought would never end. Oh my God. It's no men, nowhere. Where are they? Are they in Kroger? They must have got to be at Publix. They at the dance school. Because that's the only places I go. Grocery shopping is a dance,
that's
right?
It.
For my
that's
daughter.
All you went.
But I think during that time, God really helped me. Oh my God. Now that I'm married to Reggie, it's like, I'm so glad I did what I did for me. I'm so glad I learned about money.
Ooh.
I learned, I did not want to manage money. When my ex-husband left, girl, it took me 2 years to start managing my money. I never looked at investments and, you know, I just was so discouraged, didn't want to do that part of my life. I wanted a man to take care of me and let me just do my creative stuff. And I just knew God was saying, no, you're going to learn. You're going to learn how to manage money. You're going to know how to build your career. And you're going to do your creative stuff and work. So just knowing how to work credit, work finances, build my career, know how to maximize my revenue from my career, know how to negotiate my rate, all those different things is a big part of taking care of me. And guess what? He benefits from that. Boswell benefits from that. I benefit from that. So if you're in a if anyone's in a long season of waiting, learn, get in there and learn. I learned to take care of my body, eat right, you know, take care of your skin, do your hair, like, you know, really buy some cute nightgowns. And I really love that time of preparing myself. Yeah. Before I met Reggie, before we fell in love and got married, it was just so important for me. I think that's the biggest thing. A woman should never leave herself out. Never.
Not for your child, not for a man.
Nobody. Not for your man, because you know what? Thank God for Patrick. Thank God for Reggie.
Yes.
God forbid if anything happens, You need to know you, and you need to love yourself.
Absolutely.
And I have a daughter. She's learning from me.
Absolutely. They're watching us.
They're watching
Our daughters
us,
are
and
watching
she's
us.
looking at everything. She's as strong as I'm showing her to be, and not to be strong so she doesn't need anybody,
Right.
but just to be strong because you owe it to yourself to manage your own money.
Absolutely.
You owe it to yourself to be happy. That's your job.
That's your job.
That's your job.
That
Don't give that to
happiness
nobody
is an
else.
inside thing.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
Exactly.
And to hear as we end, as we close, to know that both of our daughters have a relationship with our husbands today.
Yes,
I watch
you
how
see
Faswa
Faswa
and Reggie, they're like best friends. And I'm like, Felicia, you ain't nowhere in this picture.
Let me tell
It's
you.
her and Reggie.
Let me tell you, I got on her the other day for something. And you know, he decided to tell me that he didn't think I should have gotten up.
But it's a joy to see that they have that relationship, and it's that safe place that we were talking about. The fact that we can let our guard down and let them have a relationship with our daughters is amazing.
Exactly.
Well, Felicia, it's been amazing talking to you about this journey. There's so much more that we
So
can talk
much.
about. But I appreciate your transparency and your honesty and sharing your journey with me for Life After Divorce.
Thank you. It truly
Do
is
you
a
want
life.
to tell anybody in the camera something inspirational?
Just know 100% that God loves you. I mean, as hard as it may seem right now, it's not over. It's not the end. It's so much more that you're going to enjoy. Go travel. Every day you wake up, make a decision. I want to be happy, and I choose happiness. Just get up and choose to be happy. It will not feel right, but find something to laugh about. Go eat dinner somewhere you've never eaten before, and just enjoy life each day at a time.
And if I could say anything, I would say after all that she said, after you do all that, just know that it is worth the wait.
It is. It's definitely worth the wait.
That's it, boo.